Police say they never found a murder weapon. He'd wiped his devices before police could get evidence. There was no evidence he had a criminal history or predisposition, and he never gave a reason for committing the horrific murders.
I respectfully decline.
But Kohberger quickly became annoying because of some of his habits. He would wash his hands dozens of times a day. He'd spend 45 minutes to an hour in the shower. Kohberger would be awake almost all night and nap during the day.
But we also did find screenshots and pictures of news coverage of Moscow.
On the case.
Correct.
That's so classic.
Right.
With the document dump, have we learned anything else about Kohberger's criminal psychology? Well, we've learned that fellow inmates found Kohberger weird. So Kohberger even has difficulty fitting in prison. You'd imagine a psychopath would feel quite at home with his ilk, with other psychopaths. But Kohberger's weirdness was something he failed to overcome. In another video, I described another weird student, Bill Gates, who also looked, sounded, and was weird, but he found a way to connect to the society around him, but Brian Kohberger couldn't. I personally disagree with Kaylee's sister, who said if he approached them, they would have been kind or friendly to him. There are countless anecdotes where people weren't friendly to him, and as a result, like it or not, Kohberger became an outsider, an alienated outsider. And that kind of became everyone's problem.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Now, some of these statements, like one inmate said that Kohberger had unusual habits, washing his hands dozens of times each day and spent 45 minutes to an hour in the shower. Now, to some people you might say that's weird or that's unusual, but other people are able to interpret this as a way to complete the profile, to figure out his criminal psychology. And so how do we do that? Well, this sounds exactly like an obsessive compulsive person. And I seem to remember it was this nervous, restless energy that I think made him feel like he needed to take drugs to begin with, just to escape from it, just for relief from it. I think if you transfer that fastidiousness with regard to washing to other things, you can imagine him being obsessive and addicted, obsessed in this case with Maddie, and with the funhouse, and with getting a girlfriend, and addicted to, who knows, drugs and porn. According to one report in the BBC, Kohberger was also said to have stayed awake most nights. Kohberger would be awake almost all night and would only take a nap during the day, police said. But then he would video chat with his mother for hours each day. Being a night owl often makes an already lonely existence even lonelier. And in the end, an alienated outsider's got to figure out what to do with hours and hours and hours of alone time, while around him, people are laughing, drinking, partying, socializing, and generally they're oblivious to him. And so think about that. He would video chat with his mother for hours each day. This is also an important factor, I feel. I don't know if Brian was a mama's boy or whether he felt abandoned by his mother. I don't know if he was coddled, but we know his father came all the way from Pennsylvania to drive home with his son. We also know Kohberger grew up poor, and perhaps the double bankruptcies made the world seem a much scarier place to him than to most. Now, by the way, this whole obsessive-compulsive thing, it's one of the ways that people respond to, that it's a way of trying to exert control over the world by reducing a lot of things to rituals and habits and repetitive behavior. According to Vanity Fair, Brian attended school in Pleasant Valley, the same district that employed his mom, Mary Ann, as a teacher's aide and his dad, Michael, as a maintenance worker. So a very simple family. The family struggled financially. Court documents show at one point Mary Ann and Michael had just $49.77 in savings. When Brian was around 15 years old, they declared bankruptcy for the second time. During this period, according to old acquaintances, Brian started doing heroin. So as a 15-year-old, he's doing heroin. Based on this excessive time video chatting with his mother, it certainly seemed as if he was and still is coddled. His mama was in court for his sentencing. His father, as far as I know, was not. Brian's relationship with his mother may actually be more foundational to his psychology than many realize. An unwritten contract is effected during a boy's childhood, usually in the void left by a disengaged father, in which mother and son become psychological peers and lovers, yet the son is still the son and must take her orders. The son becomes a substitute husband, yet remains a boy. Later in his life, he will relate to women the same way, half man, half boy. Well, is this an explanation for Brian Kohberger's psychology? By the way, that is an excerpt from Michael Gurian's book, Mothers, Sons and Lovers. During the victim impact statement, some saw a monster, psychopath, or a demon sitting passively, blinking at them. But a mother sitting in the gallery saw and recognized her son. The neglected child living in fear of the others in the world he cannot trust and dies an early death, psychologically speaking. Think about those words and this idea of someone obsessively washing their hands and someone who's afraid of the world. A man, Xana's uncle, said that he wanted to take Kohberger into the woods and basically teach him a lesson. In a sense, a man teaching another man a lesson. A man teaching a younger man, who's kind of like a boy man, a lesson. And I can't help wondering whether Brian didn't actually need that. Whatever the case, Brian's struggle probably has more to do with his failure to individuate as a person, and that failure possibly started at home. And those struggles were complicated, I'm guessing, by drugs. According to the New York Post, Kohberger's mother sobbed audibly when someone remarked how Brian had destroyed his own family. At one point, Marianne could be seen shuddering and putting her head in her hands, and she wiped tears from her eyes with a tissue when Xana Kernodle's uncle said that Kohberger contaminated, tainted their family name and pretty much made it a horrible, miserable thing to be ever related to him. You can just make out Kohberger's mother and sister sitting to his left in this image. Marianne is immediately above the plastic water bottle where it is in the corner on the table. He seemed to ignore them throughout his sentencing hearing. If there was an off-ramp from his criminal psychology, and I like to think there was, because I suspect there are other Brian Kohbergers out there, lots actually, what do you think the healthy response is to being shut out socially, to being alone? Well, how about exercise? How about therapy? How about trying to solve the problem of making friends? And I think part of that is thinking critically about what society doesn't like about you and trying to do better, in trying to be better. Does anyone know how Bill Gates solved this problem? Well, he writes about it in his book Source Code. Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. If you do want me to expand on my thoughts on Kohberger's criminal psychology, which really takes us into his backstory, let me know in the comments. Also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. If you found this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button, and I'll see you guys next time.